to the Creators Assemble Creative Job Spotlight series. I'm the president and co-founder, Moni Barrett, and with me today, I'm so excited, is senior editor at Valiant, Heather Antos. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this Thursday.
I think. What year, what week, we don't know, but Thursday. We're going into October, spooky times. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us as much about yourself as you're comfortable sharing and how you got started in the comic book industry?
Goodness, I'm an open book. How much time do you have?
Time you want, girl.
TLDR in a nutshell, is from a small town in the Midwest. Comics weren't really presented to me as an opportunity. I didn't know it was a possible career path until after I graduated college. But I've always been a huge fan of drawing, of writing, of telling stories. My mom says I drew my own comics before I knew what comics were. My brothers and I fought over the Sunday comic strips in the newspaper. So, in some way, shape, or form, they've always been a part of my life. I was super into like the Batman TV show, Adam West growing up. I was really, really into that. Star Wars was my bread and butter, James Bond, Indiana Jones. Like I grew up with that sci-fi fantasy, genres just surrounding me, but it wasn't truly until I hit college and I took an American literature class in American mythologies and got into Sandman. And that was my first like real experience with like modern comics. And I absolutely loved it. And from there, I just, I read a ton of Vertigo, Transmetropolitan, Why the Last Man, Hellblazer, you name it. I read all of them.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite when people ask like, well, what got you into superheroes? I'm not ashamed of this at all. The 2011 Green Lantern movie is what got me reading superhero comics.
Because you knew that better out there, or no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. No. So I had been watching, like superheroes, just like to breach into superhero comics felt overwhelming for anyone who hasn't been reading them their whole life. I totally get it. I totally get that barrier of entry because I had it myself. I watched the Marvel films up until that point, but for some reason, I don't know if it was just like Ryan Reynolds or I think it was, because that movie happened around the time of New 52, so that it was a good time to try superhero comics and try what was out there. And so I looked and saw the two graphic novels that it was based off of, Emerald Dawn and Secret Origin. I bought them, I read them, I loved them. I went and saw the movie, and from the very first scene in the theater, I'm sitting there talking to my boyfriend at the time. Well, this isn't how it should have happened. In the comic book, it was this. So like I was already there. I had reached that level of nerddom.
All right.
Right off the bat. So CGI costumes, man.
Mustaches and no mustaches, and
yeah, exactly. Oh God, yes, the mustaches. I totally forgot about the Henry Cavill.
Don't forget about that. Okay.
Upper lip. Yeah. I'll just talk like this for the rest of. But yeah, and from there I was hooked. I started reading comics left and right. From there, I was doing reviews and journalism for a bunch of different websites all throughout college. But I still didn't realize that making comics was a career path. Like I was already technically working in the industry, going to cons, meeting creators, interviewing creators. And it just never crossed my mind until I graduated college and didn't know what to do with my life and had, the mid-20s crisis that we all do at 22, 23 years old. And a friend turned to me and he was just like, well, you like comics, why don't you just do that? And it was this like, just this moment of, oh yeah, duh. And at that point, it really just became like, how do I make this happen? Not can this happen, or do I even want to do this? No, it really became not a matter of if, but a matter of when and how. And so I just began researching the different career opportunities out there, beyond just being a creator and being, your writer, penciler, colorist. And I started self-publishing, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the other tidbits in there a little bit later, but like any industry, not just comics, literally any industry, it's all being prepared when opportunity strikes. It's having the experience, so that when an opportunity presents itself, you can say, absolutely, I can do that. And when job opportunities opened up at Dark Horse and at Marvel, which is where I got job offers from, I had already been networking and meeting people, and I already had a slew of hero projects that I put together and done myself. And that's, as you can say for any industry, you don't, very rarely does someone just be like, hey, you off the street, you're going to be, the star of my film, which has happened. I know.
Your parent is somebody, or yeah.
Right. But it's, you go to law school and you take the LSATs and you take the bar exam and you pass, but it's just like, if you want to draw comics, you don't just like call up Marvel and say, hey, give me Wolverine. You spend decades practicing and learning how to draw and doing other work until that opportunity comes. So, yeah.
You are absolutely the perfect person for this job series, because I think this is what, kind of the creators in our network need to hear, is just that you're spending the time, you're also putting together the projects. We've had them do small projects with us, to demonstrate kind of what they're capable of. And so, and we have more projects on the docket for them. So this is really good for them to hear, like, there's value in doing those things before you even try to be like, now I'm going to work for Marvel or somebody of that.
Well, it's a thing I say, when I talk with students too, or people at conventions, like, who out here wants to be an artist? And, you get people who raise their hands. And then I ask, well, how many people out there draw every day? And you get people raising their hands. I'm like, congratulations, you're an artist. Like who wants to be a writer? Have you written a script? Congratulations, you're a writer. Like, yeah. There's no graduation ceremony that's, you are officially a comic book artist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. And, the chances that any single writer out there is ever going to have the opportunity to write Star Wars or the opportunity to write Batman. Yes, that is a dream goal, 100%. But there can only be one at one time. And again, it's not like there's a job application you can just fill out
around it that, help you get to that point. So
yeah.
So about editing, what got you interested in editing then? If you said you had been a creator, if you said you'd been a self-publisher, what got the editing going for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I went to school for theater and film. I've been doing theater my whole life, performing, and I've been writing my whole life and drawing and everything. And I love the process of putting together a story, whether it be told with dance, with audio sounds, and do audio stories, because those are a lot of fun, or putting together a play or a comic. And that had been what I had been studying my entire life. And there's something really cool about that, like that collaborative, creative experience that is what, has drawn me to comics and stuck around, for me with comics. And editing in particular, I think really really struck a chord with me because it is so similar to producing film and producing theater. If you look at what a showrunner does or a producer does for anything, it's you pitch ideas, or you contact people to pitch ideas, you put together a cast, you put together a crew, you manage a budget, you manage deadlines, you hit the schedule, and you're doing it for 15 projects all at a time. Like that's what a comic book editor does. We just do it, with pen and paper or Cintiqs, whatever your medium is. And so there was this aspect, I think, that I really liked, because being an editor, you're never just working on one project. And so I get to really exercise a lot of different creativities doing that. Right now I'm working on a YA OGN, the same time I'm doing a futuristic sci-fi time travel story, the same time I'm doing this horror fantasy, the same time I'm doing this like punk rock Akira, superhero story, all at the same time. Yeah. Which means every single day is chaos and totally different, and I love it.
Yeah. So the technical stuff, what is editing like? Like, how do you receive something, as much or as little as you want to get into that, just for people who've never done it, to kind of go through what a process looks like?
Well, there is no one single process, which, is
why you love it, like you said.
Yeah, it's why I love it. There are some pros or cons to it. We get a lot of people who come from like the film and Hollywood side of things, who this is how you write a screenplay. And if anyone looks at a screenplay in any other different way, like they will laugh at you out of Hollywood, right? If it's any other format. Kind of the same for, this is what a pitch package looks at for like an advertising company or animation or like any of those things. There's a very specific format which works for them, and I totally get why it exists. And in comics, it's just kind of this whatever works for you. And there are a lot of different schools of thought on this. I've worked for editors-in-chiefs and publishers who had, nope, this is the way you do it. If you send me a script that looks any other way, like I'll send it back to you and you have to reformat it and blah, 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 blah. I'm not really like that. Like my personal philosophy is I am here, either if it's a IP that I'm working on with like Marvel, Lucasfilm, Disney, or Valiant, I'm working with these creators because I wanted to work with these creators, these specific people. They're not just wheels in a cog. Sure. And so I'm going to be as flexible as I can, and it's up to me to adapt to how they work. My philosophy is always the only thing a creator should have to worry about is creating. That's it. They shouldn't have to worry about any of the other bullshit that goes on. Like, it's up to me to manage the schedule and manage them in that schedule. It's not up for them to they have to manage their own schedules. I can't, you figure out what time of day you write when you have to pick the kids up from school. I can't do that for you, but I can make sure that you have enough time feasibly, to do that. I'm not going to tell you, give me 100 pages tomorrow. That's just ridiculous. So having that been said, there is no typical day. I have a system of which I work where I make sure my Mondays are typically weekly check-ins where I go through every single project that I'm working on and do a poke of, hey, where are things at? Here are the things that are due this week, blah, 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 blah. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. Talk about video games, whatever. Yeah. And then, I have my calendars, deadlines, and all that I just keep track of and reach out to people when they do. As scripts come in, I read them, I give notes back. Usually, fingers crossed, if all goes well, you only have to do 1 or 2 rounds of notes on scripts. My personal preference is to always outline your comics, folks. Outline your OGNs, outline your series, outline your arcs, because if you can nail that stuff down, it makes the scripting editing process like go by so quickly.
Okay.
Because all the kinks are worked out. You know, it's the difference of like, oh, I want to drive across the country and I'm just gonna wing it, you know, and then you end up in Canada,
Which would be lovely at this point, but anyways.
well, if they would let us in, but or you know, you turn on, you know, the Waze app and they're like, oh, here's the quickest, smoothest way to get there. You know, that's it's and some people like the scenic route, and that's fine. When you're working by yourself, but when you're working with a team,
Yeah.
you know,
Deadlines and actual people trying to
budgets and
yeah, that stuff becomes important.
yeah.
That actually kind of broaches the question that I was coming up with next was, what's your best kind of tip, or what would you love like a newer creator to know from your perspective? Like coming in, you'd be like, if they all knew this, it would be easier for them and for me. Besides, so outlining is one of the things.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never worked with an editor before and it's your first time working with an editor, either if it's you bringing in an editor to look at your creator-owned project that you're working on or your self-published project, which a lot of us do that, or if it's your first time working with an editor at a publisher, editors are your friends. You know, there's this like, just this like misconception that all, you know, all editors are out there to ruin projects and put their stamp on it and all of this stuff, and like I think that came from the time in comics when the editors were writing the comics, because that there was a time, you know, as recently as the 90s that editors were writing the comics, and for some of the, you know, smaller publishers, I think they still allow that, but they're not editing the own comics that they write, so I think they don't fall into as much of that. But you know, if an editor is telling you something as simple as, you know, it's kind of important to name the characters on the page, or, you know, plot suggestions or shifting things around for pacing or all this stuff, they're not doing that. That any note is not your bad. And I feel like a lot of people who don't have experience getting critique, or communicating critique, and it's an editor's job, and hopefully they know how to communicate critique in a positive, helpful manner, in a clear manner. But there are people that just don't know how to accept that, and we see that a lot in newer, less experienced creators, whether artists or writers, because I think a lot of people have a tendency, and I know I did when I was starting out creating. You know, it's, you work so hard on this thing, you know, this drawing, this script that you poured hours into, and it speaks to your soul. So any note, be it you misplaced a comma, you know, we're going to take that as an attack, and it's not an attack.
No,
You know?
yeah.
The way I like to say is editors are story therapists, you know.
Good one.
We're there to ask questions and help you achieve the goal that you want to achieve. When I give a note, when I ask questions, when I want to brainstorm with a writer, it's so I can get a better idea of what goals they want to achieve with their story, and this is how I can help them achieve that goal.
I like that. Instead of kind of lording that power over them, that you can make them change something, is to think that you're helping them achieve what they're trying to do.
It's this whole thing, I think, of, you know, it's the publisher mandates and just let the creators do what they want to do, and there's like a, well, yes and no type thing with that, because at the end of the day, you know, IP does belong to the publisher. It's that is, you know, that it is the publisher's right to protect that IP and make demands of that IP how they see fit. But that doesn't mean it's like a dictatorship.
There's that fine line of remembering you're putting something out into the world for others to enjoy as well, but also that it's such a big part of yourself. So I think editors seem like they're really integral in that process. That's
Yeah.
okay. So changing tracks a little bit, and I know you've had just a little bit of experience in this arena. Being a woman in comics has unique challenges and opportunities. What advice would you give female creators? And I would just go so far as to say women in the comic space. What advice would you give, if any, or what would you say to other women?
I mean, gosh, we could do a whole episode on this, but there's a few different things. I think the main thing is to, and this throughout your career and journey in life, this may shift and change, but it's so important to know what your brand, what your identity is, what your worth is. It's so easy, I think, especially as a woman, to fall into certain stereotypes of, oh, you write the female characters, or whereas typically we see in all entertainment industries, oh, the male stars or whatever, they can do all things, but this person, this female can only do this particular type of story, or this particular type of character, or this particular, whatever. So, which is bullshit, as we all know. And I think it's so important to, really find that strength in yourself to stand up for yourself. Because, and again, in all aspects of life, no one is going to fight for you. And you are your own best advocate. And being assertive is not the same thing as being mean.
Not a bitch if you say
exactly. And I think that's a thing that a lot of women need to hear and need to internalize. I'm still working on that. Being assertive is not the same thing as being mean. And someone being disappointed is not the same thing as being a disappointment. Ooh. Is another one I like, which is really, really important. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of controversy around women and other, LGBT, POC, in this industry, in the world of just existing. And you know what? It's your right to exist. It's your right to create, and God damn it, you better do both.
I love that. Take up all the space you want, because
yes.
So what do you think that women and the comics community can do to sort of make it a safer space for women and for marginalized creators?
I mean, the best thing is to, take no shit, and be loud in your support, be loud in your dollars. Because that's what speaks to the publishers, is what you're spending your money on, and who you're supporting. And publishers don't see the tweets you send. They don't. They see the sales. And like, that's first and foremost is so important when it comes to creating wider spaces, whether they're on the big 2 circuit or the big 5 or creator owned. That's where you're spending your money, but it's also so important to be positive and loud in your support vocally, because a lot of times the only vocals that we see or experience are the negative ones, and whether that's negative ones towards women, LGBT, POC, or it's negative comments towards the trolls. It's just a lot of negative, and just we need so much less negative.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad, again, that you're here talking to us about this, because I've only been in comics probably the last 5 years or so. I come from a librarian background who started advocating for comics in libraries and schools. And for me, it's been better. I mean, I definitely had one major issue, but it's been a lot better than the things that I've seen, like the hate directed at women like you. So just thank you for being there first. Thank you for continuing to forge on even when shit gets real, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we're here to be loud now.
and I think the thing too is if you do experience, you know, the shit getting real, as you say, it's not about you. You know, people, as I like to say, and I don't know if you allow swearing on this, but as I like to say, you know, someone being an asshole to you on the internet says a heck of a lot more about them than it does about you.
Yeah, it really does. It's very easy, as we've all said, to be that way, you know, when you can't be seen. But I don't know, some of these folks are way out there with their assholism, but that's a whole other
They are.
I've seen some shit lately that I'm just like, you're really going to put that on Zoom and put that out there for everybody to see. Cool. Okay. That's you, I guess. Be far away. Yeah, no. So thank you on behalf of the girl in the marginalized ladies in this space. So I wanted to know kind of what a typical day is for you. First of all, the squeaking, is that a cat, a dog?
That's my puppy. Chelly, you want to come on camera? She's like, Mom, it's time for our walk.
Like, hello.
Hold on. Let's see if we can see her.
You're bigger than I thought. Hi, baby. Oh my goodness. How old is she?
She is 8.5 months.
Okay. Gosh, she's gonna be real big, huh?
It's about as big as she's gonna get.
Okay.
She hasn't really grown much in the last month or so. She's a mix between an Australian cattle dog, which are typically like 35 to 45 pounds, and a lab, which can get, you know, big. But she's kind of been the size for several weeks now. So I think she might get a little stockier, but I think this is it.
Oh, yeah. She's beautiful. You have a baby, so that's one of your things.
Yeah.
I know that what do you do to kind of stay happy? Obviously, walk your dog. What other things do you do, especially right now in quarantine, if you're still doing that? Like, what's your life like?
Yeah, so life has definitely changed in the last 8 months or 7 months. I don't know how long it's been. What was it? March? Who knows? 7 months. It's been like 7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Friday the 13th is the only reason that I remember it, is because.
Yeah, that's when I adopted her.
You had one lucky thing happen.
Yeah, that's when I got you. She's like, Mom, shut up. I got a puppy. I've been puppy raising. But so a lot of the publishers, most of the publishers, I think in New York, aren't going back to office at least until 2021. We're actually in the middle of moving out of our current office and into another office. So technically no one's actually going to that new office until who knows in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's a whole weird thing. So I've just kind of, really just like settled into a work from home routine, walk the dog. I've really gotten into yoga. That's been like my lifesaver during all of this. I play a lot of Fortnite. Okay. I play a ton of Fortnite, and I binge reality television like no one's business. I have watched every single season of every single series of The Real Housewives in the last couple of months. I've watched all of them. Yep. My partner and I are super, super, super into like the trashy dating shows and stuff. So like The Bachelor, and there was one called Labor of Love, which she was trying to find her baby daddy, you know. And we're going through all of Married at First Sight right now. So like that's, and then my true passion in life is true crime. When I'm working, I listen to true crime podcasts. When I'm walking her, I just binged another true crime documentary series literally today called Love Fraud on Showtime. Highly recommend. Very good.
I'm sorry, I just interrupted you. What was it again?
Love Fraud on Showtime.
Okay.
It's about a bunch of women. Basically, it's John Tucker Must Die in real life. There's a con man who conned a bunch of middle-aged women out of their life savings and stuff, and it's all led by like the 6-year-old badass female bounty hunter that takes no shit, and it's the best. It's so good.
Good for that. Okay, checking that
out. But that's my life. It's murder, reality television shows, Fortnite, and comics. That's
I love it. Have you tried playing D&D like Roll20? Have you tried doing it online, or are you just kind of
I,
giving that
I,
a rest?
I can't do like online meetings when it's more than like one screen, and like it's just it's so bad for my anxiety. And I feel bad because I had just started in the couple months leading up to COVID, started DMing for a bunch of people who had never played before. And it was so much fun. But as anyone who has ever DM'd before knows, it's a lot of work to prep, a campaign. And I don't think people like really understand how much prep work goes into it. And then to like have to transfer that prep work to like an online platform. And I'm such a, an analog person in general. Like I write everything by hand. I print everything off to like read it. So the whole thought of doing Roll20 just like stresses me out.
A big learning curve that done threw me off. So yeah, I don't blame you. Okay, yeah, and be kind to your DMs. That's also the reminder
Yes.
to those folks that, especially the ones who have to perpetually be the DM for different,
Yep.
come on, give those people a break. So, looking into the future of comics, this is where you can become our oracle. What do you think is coming like trend wise that people might not expect, and what do you hope is happening in comics?
Oh, I mean, people do expect this. I don't think this is a thing that people don't expect, but like we're going to see a much bigger transition into OGNs, I think, even from IP. We're already seeing DC a little bit kind of venture into that, but I think, the next steps that we're going to see is a lot more digital first single issue releases and then book market OGN releases. Like I think, we're going to start with trades like that. And just again, just a stronger push towards the book market. And that's what I hope for, honestly. Like that's, kids are voracious readers. Yes. They are. And that is where comics started and thrived. And it wasn't until the 80s and 90s when, cynical boomers came in, and Jerry Conway just did a great thread on this.
I just saw that today.
Yeah. When we gotta make everything dark and gritty and angsty, and
you don't though, especially right now, honestly.
Yes. Well, I had a friend who just started reading all the Valiant stuff, and she was just like, Bloodshot just needs a hug. And I'm like, yeah, so do all the characters created in the 90s. Like, they all just need some therapy and a hug. That's really...
More hugs.
Yep.
So you actually, and this is kind of, again, at the core of why you're here with Creators Assemble, is we're kind of about helping people kind of get a hand up, or sending the elevator down, so to speak. And you were promoting a portfolio review for writers and for artists. So what do you hope to kind of give back to the community by doing projects like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be where I am today in the industry if people didn't take a chance on me, if people didn't give me an opportunity to just sit down and talk to me. When I was trying to meet editors and figure out what comic book editors did, I did the very millennial thing, and I just tweeted them, and who will give me 15 minutes, who will sit and talk with me. And I'm so grateful for the people that did, because that's how I learned. And that's honestly, like, more so than anything, like, I felt welcomed. I felt, that single interaction was a possibility. And it's so hard to meet people, especially in an industry as small as comics, and I think we see and have experienced a lot of problems in this industry, especially at conventions. I know I have, from like the desperate creator, right, who just this is my shot. And so I think it's so important that the publishers, create opportunities for education and networking, because one, that's just how we're going to branch our talent pool, which is so important, as we all see, to not have the same creators and the same characters and the same stories over and over and over and over and over. And that responsibility falls solely on the publisher, falls solely on the editors to do it. And without conventions this year,
Yes.
You know, for me, it's the loss of those opportunities for creators to meet. And already there's already such a barrier of entry there, because you have to be able to afford, to travel to a convention, or there needs one to be local to you. And so, like, it's not equal from the get-go. Sure. And so offering these portfolio reviews was an opportunity for Valiant to say, hey, that barrier of entry is down. Like, so long as you've done the work, which again, as we've spoken of, it's all about having the experience done when the opportunity presents itself. And this was me presenting the opportunity. Show me what you got. And, we were overwhelmed with hundreds and hundreds of portfolios, that every single one was looked at. Again, so long as I've said on Twitter, like, so long as you submitted and met the requirements, your portfolio was looked at. And our eyes bled for days and days and days and days.
All the good and the bad you had seen. So
yes. But it was so important to me, so important to see what's out there and see who's interested, and sit and talk with people, and just try and help.
That's something so missing with being in person this year. But as imperfect as obviously it is to not be able to meet, it still was kind of nice from an access perspective. What you were saying about the barriers to going to these conventions is like, not only the cost, but also, can you even get a pass? We take for granted, because we're in this business, that we get passes to go places. But I kind of liked that some of this stuff was online and available for people to actually be able to participate a little bit in. So
no, for sure. And this program is something that, like, it's not going to go away. We have every intent of continuing to do that even when conventions are a thing again, because I think one of the most exciting things for me was when I did the first round with artists. On our submission form, we just got like name and discipline, right? Like, Bobby Smith and inker, right? And I did 10 reviews over 2 hours, and I think eight or 9 of them were in different countries.
Oh, wow.
And that then and there was like, and this is why I'm doing this.
Yes. That's
because I talked to someone in the Philippines and in Greece and then in Brazil, and like, you can't do that at a show.
Yeah.
Like, so it was great. It's super cool.
That's awesome. And talk about, if you'd like, Signal Boost Sunday.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that? How can people get involved?
Yeah, so Signal Boost Sunday kind of goes into the same thing that I talked about before. I'm all about paying it forward and paying it back. And I think that we as a community need to work hard at promoting each other positively and creating that safe space, as we talked about before. And so, God, when did I do this? 2018, I think. So 2018, 2017 is when I started Signal Boost Sunday. And I used to do it every Sunday. That got very, very overwhelming and would literally dominate an entire day of my weekend every weekend. And I couldn't do that anymore. But the first Sunday of literally every month, so coming up on October 5th, I'm not sure when this is going live, but if it's going,
yeah, October 5th.
Yeah, so I think it's October 5th, October 4th, whatever that Sunday is. From 9 to 5 Eastern time, I do a thread called Signal Boost Sunday where I post the rules. And basically, if you are a creator of any kind, it doesn't mean just comics. If you are a creative person have a podcast, create knickknacks and jewelry on Etsy, you know, are an artist of any kind, post a portfolio of your work, post your website, post your web store, and I will boost it to my following. The only rules is that you have to boost someone else in that thread. So, you know, it's not just about, hey, put my work out there, but it's about you, you know, helping another creator too. And that is so, so, so important to building this community, where it's not just about us, it's not just about our work, it's about helping each other, because comics are collaborative, being creative is collaborative. And it's so important to help continue to build upon this positive, supportive space that the internet should be.
Yeah.
And can be and is, and we just need more of it.
Yeah, and what you're doing is really, you know, big step towards that. So, okay, we'll make sure to get this out. It's the 4th. We'll make sure to get this out before that so that we can
Great. Yeah.
talk about it. That's really amazing. That's really a cool thing to be doing. So, as you mentioned, you're on Twitter. I follow you at Heather Antos. Folks, if you don't follow her already, do yourselves a favor and go and do that. I noticed that you recently consumed an entire pie.
That was last week, yes.
To me is peak adulting, and honestly, with 2 little people that would have done it for me is also goals. So, congrats on that. Do you have any other just general parting words of wisdom, anything you want people to know or to hear?
I mean, you know, to quote the great Will Wheaton, don't be a dick. As I say, you know, do the thing you say you're gonna do and don't be a dick. And life will go smoothly then.
I love that, because it's just funny that, like, specifically don't be a dick, because some of my friends in comics and education, we have a low-key no dicks rule, where basically we're like, we know this person is hard to work with, so we just try not to, like, respectfully stay away from working with that person. That's the no dicks rule. So yeah, don't be a dick and you don't end up part of the excluded crew. So
yeah.
Very cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to promote, or do you want to tell us your socials or websites where we can find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me again is Twitter. I'm on there constantly talking about apple pies and penguins. And I'm on Instagram if you want to see all the cute pictures of Chelly, my puppy, that I post. You can also go to my website, heatherantos.com. I do have a web store where I offer commissions, original art, and enamel pins and all sorts of goodies, including a penguin that says "Don't be a dick." So
you should have a duck. Don't be a dick duck.
Well, penguins are my animal. That's what I'm noted for. So I had to do that. But my best friend says Chelly needs to be my next enamel pin, so I'm trying to figure that out.
That's what Sina Grace recently did, the little Henry enamel pins.
And
super cute.
Ryan Brown has Simon, his cat. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing. And then you got to get a penguin just so you can make an enamel pin of a penguin.
God, if only.
I need a different climate for that, but we can work on it. So. Awesome. And then just a reminder to everyone, thank you for being an audience for this today and on our YouTube page. We are at creatorsassemble.org, where we still have our charity ebook, all proceeds to Black Lives Matter and LGBT charities, Arts Alliance here in Southern California. But what it is a collaboration of unknown so far creators, aspiring writers, and illustrators in that book. Download it for $12. Again, all proceeds to charity, creatorsassemble.org. Thank you, Heather Antos. This was amazing.
Thank you.